We are live on Proline TV, the Our Lads Football Network. Thanks for tuning in for a late edition of our Wednesday Proline picks. And we're going to be talking about the NFL and college football. And normally we try to come on right after Jim's handicapping show in Las Vegas. So hopefully you were able to check that out earlier today. It's, of course, available right now on demand on the channel. You've got some of the best handicappers in the business every Wednesday right here on the Proline TV channel. But we're doing it late at night, so it is what it is. Also want to let everyone know that we conducted an interview earlier today with James Yarcho of the Tampa Bay Bucks podcast. It's actually called the Locked On Bucks podcast. And James is going to come on Friday right around 7-ish Eastern time, so check that out. There's a link in the description of the video for the interview I did with James. You can check it out on the channel. And we went over a lot of the key injuries. I mean, we went over everything as far as the injuries of note, how it could affect Tampa Bay's offensive line, how basically it could affect their offense in general. So you might want to check that out if you are interested in wagering on the Bucks-Eagles game coming up, of course, on Sunday. And unfortunately, it's a 1 o'clock game. That game, I think everybody would feel it's the game of the week, but it's Baltimore, Kansas City, so they're going to get prime billing, and it is what it is. Still, it's going to be a great game to watch early on Sunday. Not real early, because that is the game that you're going to be checking out in Ireland, the first game in Europe for the NFL this season. But let's talk about college football first. And I'm going to try to go over this as usual as fast as I can, because there's a lot to always go over in college football. So let's get right to it. And we're going to start first of all here with this game. Now, this spread has gone down a little bit, and I'm not really sure why, because it's making me worried would be the right word. Like I need to do a little bit more homework. Like, is someone injured? I don't know, but I think this line is still really low. I thought it was low when we talked about it briefly on Monday, and now it's down to 4.5. I came this close to making it my top college play for the weekly Wise Guy contest, but I decided to go another route. But I just still really like this game. It's one of my top picks of the week. The Irish are 22-6 against the spread as a road favorite over the last 28. I know they didn't cover week 1 against Miami, but you can't cover them all. Meanwhile, Arkansas has played 2 good teams this year, and they lost both of them straight up and against the spread. Look, we told you and kind of warned you about them as well heading into the game against Ole Miss a couple weeks ago, that the one thing that they needed to stay away from, which killed them last year, were turnovers. And what did he do? Last big drive, they got all the momentum. It looks like they're going to punch in a late score and upset Ole Miss. Turnover. Then what happens the following week against Memphis? They're marching down the field. Looks like, they're definitely going to score here. I mean, SEC team, they're just running it down their throats. Fumble. So I'm sorry, but a team like that beating Notre Dame, we all know how important this game is for Notre Dame. So they're definitely going to be up for this one. They don't care about Boise State next week. I mean, this is an SEC road game. This is a really important game as well, as far as getting, the proper credentials that they'll need at the end of the season if they've got 2 or 3 losses to try to get to the playoffs. So I know they're going to try to do as much damage as they can in this one. And that's why I'm definitely going to fly high with the Irish as a 4-point favorite. This is a real good one, of course. You got Ole Miss and LSU, so we're going to learn an awful lot about both of these teams. The one thing, though, that has, I think, been the issue with LSU so far, because the offense has kind of slowed things down. It's the defense that's actually been carrying LSU this season, which is a big surprise. Hey, Nussmeier, isn't he supposed to be a top 5 draft pick next year? LSU, I mean, this is Brian Kelly, and they've got the quarterback and a good running back in Durham. They always have receivers. What's the problem? Well, I left out the offensive line, and that's the problem. When you lose 4 starters that get drafted in the NFL, I'm sorry, but you're just going to come down a little bit. And that's been, I think, the major issue for LSU. Now, can Ole Miss exploit that? Well, that's something I guess we're going to have to find out. It's only a 1-point favorite, Ole Miss. So I think they're telling you what we do believe, and that LSU is the better team. Chambliss has looked really good, but remember, I mean, that's a lower level quarterback that was able to get some action the last couple of weeks. But this is LSU's defense, and this has been one of the better looking defenses so far that we've seen this season. So, and don't get me started on the Austin Simmons kid, because I don't think that I would be very scared if he came into the game the way that he looked the first few weeks. A couple of key trends to keep in mind. Ole Miss is a home team. Actually, let's put this in better perspective. In this series, the home team has won 6 out of 7 and covered all 7 the last 7 years. So that's the thing that's kind of making me a little bit nervous about taking LSU in this one. But I still like them. I just think that, this is the offense is the thing that just still concerns me. The last time they went on a road against a really good team, Clemson, we know they were able to bail themselves out of that one. But Ole Miss's offense is definitely better right now than Clemson's without Antonio Williams. We've seen that for sure. But check this out. This works for LSU. The Rebels, 0-9-1 against the spread off back-to-back ATS straight-up wins versus SEC competition. Next up, SEC. Really good one between A&M and Auburn. And I like A&M in this one, but the only reason that I'm kind of going to stay away from it is it has that kind of game and feel, or the look for me that says maybe winner doesn't cover, that kind of thing. But I definitely believe A&M is the better team. I don't think there's any question about that now. We talked about this on Monday. The quarterback situation for Auburn, they're kind of one-dimensional. They can't really throw the ball, and that's a shame, because that kid Coleman, that wide receiver for Auburn, is the real deal. I mean, he was like open twice for big plays, and Arnold just could not get him the ball. The home team in this series has won and covered the last 4 years, so that bodes well for A&M. They also have revenge on their side, losing to Auburn last year. And they've covered 6 straight as a conference favorite, less than 16 points when they have revenge on their side. Okay, so that's that one. So look, I would still stick with A&M if I'm taking the game, but I'm just a little bit concerned with the overall number. This is really going to be an exciting game, I think. And I came really close to putting this in as like an upset pick. Again, college football, in my book, I think you have to be at least a 6-point dog. That puts you at about a 2-to-1 money line range. And Mississippi State 250 here. And I'm probably going to go ahead and throw some money on the money line myself, because Mississippi State, I think they are the real deal for what they are. In other words, look, they have a really tough schedule coming up, and they did everything they were supposed to do with the schedule they had, including the big upset win over Arizona State. And we'll get to Arizona State in a little bit, but they've outscored their opponents by 159-47. So I think that matters. And Tennessee, they had a big letdown. I mean, a big loss to Georgia. You wonder what kind of a situation this is going to be now, getting back into SEC play, but it's on the road and they're the better team. I completely get that, which is why I'm not going to make this an official upset play. It's the first true road game of the season for Tennessee. But I do think Mississippi State's for real. And what that means is I think they're going to give Tennessee a game. But I do think they probably lose. I take the points, though, to tell you the truth. I think if Tennessee covers, I'm looking at it like a fourth quarter late kind of cover deal. Oh, this is one of the big ones, of course, of the weekend. And I was really thinking hard about which way I wanted to go here. But I'm actually going to, I'm kind of surprising myself a little, but maybe not, because I'm reverting back to the way I thought at the beginning of the season. And I'm going to give Alabama the benefit of the doubt at least one more time. And that is taking Alabama in this one. So they're getting 3. Keep in mind that they have beaten Georgia 7 out of 8, covering 5 out of 8. And in the last 4, they have taken on Georgia. They've been a dog. And they've won 3 out of the 4. The only one they didn't win was the biggest one, the national championship game And so I know how Georgia fans feel about that, considering it's the only win they've had over Alabama in the last 8 meetings. But Georgia's only 3-10 against the spread. Their last 13 is a home favorite. And that's something that definitely stands out. The good trend, though, this is a really good one. Georgia's 15-2 against the spread. Their last 17 as an SEC favorite with revenge. All right. Of course, Alabama beat Georgia last year by 7 points. And Georgia was a 1-point road favorite in that one. But look, I'm taking Alabama. Maybe what will happen is Alabama, even though it's only 3, maybe Alabama wins by 1 again or 2 or something like that. So well, then again, I'm getting 3 from Alabama. What am I saying? It's the opposite. So scratch what I just said. But in this one, I definitely don't take the money line with Alabama. And I would tell you this, if you like Georgia, take the money line for sure. I wouldn't even mess around with the 3. Because I think this is going to be a real close game. And we're going to know a lot about both teams, because even though I like Georgia against Tennessee, and I got kind of lucky in a sense, the way that they were able to come back and win that game in overtime, I think I had my bet hedged or something. I mean, or something like that, from what I remember, what the actually would have won if they would have kicked the extra point and all that. But I felt lucky and fortunate. Tennessee choked at the end, and Georgia's defense was very disappointing. I don't look at Alabama's team yet. Yes, the Florida State loss, nobody really liked it because of everything they were hearing off the field and the getting ready for the game and what they were hearing about, the Alabama players. But so far they have responded as good as you would want them to respond since then. That's why I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt in this one, because Georgia's defense has not looked good so far. And Alabama, really, even in that loss to Florida State, keep in mind their number 1 wide receiver, wasn't like a full go. I'm not even sure if Ryan Williams, I don't even know if he was playing in the game. I think he was, but he wasn't really a factor. And now everybody's out there. All the cards are out there for the Alabama offense, and I'm just going to go with them. I just don't think that Florida State loss is really as bad. At least it wasn't that bad on the field. I think everything that really came into that game after the loss was all about the off the field stuff. Because if you really look at the game, it wasn't like Florida State just marched up and down the field, did what they want, and Alabama turned the ball over 3 times. It looked sloppy. No, it was just Florida State made the plays and Alabama didn't. And that was it. So like I said, Alabama responded the way that they should have. And that's why I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, at least one more game. And there's only one more game to talk about in the SEC. This one. I'm just going to throw in a trend here. South Carolina, 3-0, straight up ATS, last 3 years versus Kentucky. But on the flip side, if you want to take Kentucky, they're 11-5 in the last 16 as a road dog. And how about this one? This is a playbook special. 18-1. Against the spread off a non-conference game when they take on an opponent with a 500 or better win percentage, and they're 1-0 in that trend this year. 18-1. Next up, let's go to the Big Ten. And we are going to open here with this USC Illinois game. I don't think anybody has any idea how to respond or how Illinois is going to respond from the Indiana game. Because I don't look at it as they were phonies. I don't see that. I'm not recognizing it. All I know is that when we broke it down, we said the one thing that Indiana had that Illinois didn't was receivers. That Illinois got a good running game, quarterback, defense, all that. Indiana, likewise, but they had some really good receivers that could make him a little bit more explosive. And sure enough, as soon as Illinois made that early mistake in the game, the floodgates opened for whatever reason. And these things happen. And I think one of the things I've learned a lot in college football is college kids are resilient. All right. They're just different. And I think also their games are limited compared to the NFL. So even though they're getting longer and longer, but the schedule's getting longer and longer, but they can respond pretty quickly, especially when it's a home game It's homecoming. So this is the opportunity that you need to respond. And that's where I think Illinois will. They're 7-1-1 against the spread at home versus teams with a win percentage of 750 or higher. And more importantly, as we've said many times here the last couple of years, Lincoln Riley is now just 3-12 against the spread as a road favorite. And that is here at USC, and he's 0-1 this season. Purdue. Okay. And USC really hasn't played anybody yet. Keep in mind that they have been favored by 19 or more in every game they played this season. Now they're finally playing a real team on the road, trying to get back their mojo, I guess. But after what happened last week with Indiana, I am not taking Illinois as a best bet, and I'm definitely not taking even the money line. I would probably just stick with the spread because I kind of feel like USC is due to be a little bit different this year. I like what I've seen so far, the quarterback, the running back, the receivers. The defense is still the one in question, but I like the D coordinator. So I think there is still a shot. And this is the game that everybody is going to know for sure whether USC can be something different this year. And I'm going to go ahead and say that USC wins a close one. All right, now here comes the game that actually ended up as my top college play. This is my college wise guy pick. I mentioned this on Monday that I had no idea why this line was 4, and now it's 5.5. I think it was 4.5 on Monday or 4, I forget. And now it's actually gone up. And I don't need to know, like the Notre Dame situation, I don't need to do any research because I know everything there is to know about Rutgers' situation. So there's no mysterious reason. There's just for some reason, some people believe that Minnesota is actually still a good team this season based on, PJ Fleck and what they've been lately. And they're just not. This is not a good Minnesota team. If you look at it, Minnesota, keep this in mind. And I don't try to get into this kind of maze stuff too often, but they beat Buffalo by 13 at home to start the season. And Buffalo beat Kent State by 3. Okay. So, and Buffalo just lost last week as a home favorite to a Troy team with their backup quarterback who couldn't move the ball at all the week before. So, and here's a Minnesota team also that loses to Cal as a road favorite. And it lost by a couple of touchdowns. And then Cal just lost to San Diego State 31-0. So all of that is just like nice window dressing to kind of prove where I'm coming from. But I didn't need all of that and even have to look at all that. The fact is, Rutgers is just more talented than Minnesota. They just are. And the one thing that, of course, Rutgers has to do is play a little defense. And if they can do that, then they definitely win this game. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is that Minnesota's offense, look, the quarterback situation had been really good with Brosmer. He's gone. They now have a redshirt freshman there who has not shown well. Keep an eye on the injury report for Minnesota's running back, the kid Taylor, I think it is. Really good running back. He got banged up in the Cal game. And so didn't play the rest of the game. Now, I don't know the status. I'm guessing he's going to be okay in play. That's why this line's 5.5. I can't think of any other reason why they would put 5.5 if, Darian Taylor was not playing, because he is the best player on the Minnesota team. And I would definitely think he'd play. Keep this in mind, too, that next up is Ohio State. So Minnesota will be at Ohio State. They also coming off a bye, and I'm sure maybe that has something to do with it as well. But Rutgers is 4-1 straight up, 4-0-1 against the spread the last 5 years in their first road game of the year. Now, here's a really good one. Ohio State and Washington. And, you look at this and the first thing you think of is, wow, that's a pretty small point spread, isn't it? And that's the first thing I said on Monday. But then again, I remembered what I also thought about Washington in the beginning of the season. This is going to be maybe a nice little sleeper, mid-pack Big Ten team with a really good offense. I mean, they got an exciting quarterback, dual threat. Jonah Coleman is the best running back probably. Then again, there are a few players and running backs in the country that are really unknown to most people. And I've been touting, of course, Ahmad Hardy all I can from Missouri. But Jonah Coleman is definitely one of those running backs. And this is a great opportunity for Jonah Coleman to put his stamp down and show everybody just how good he is. A really good dual threat running back receiver. Breaking tackles, kind of body, really kind of, he can do everything really. So I think this is going to be a dangerous Washington opponent. You're going from, even though it's Midwest, you're going to the West. It's still Ohio. It's not a Midwest, but you're going to Ohio, West Coast. It's a long West Coast trip. They have to deal with that. And how about this? Jedd Fisch is 3-1 straight up, 4-0 against the spread, and his last 4 is a home dog. And this is last year at Washington and the year before in 2023 with Arizona. So that's the last 2 years. The Washington Huskies program has covered 6 straight when they take on an opponent coming off of a bye, and that is what Ohio State's doing. I think this is going to be a good game. And we're going to really find out how for real Ohio State is, because they had that ugly win to start the season against Texas, and then they haven't really played anybody. But they had a young quarterback, and actually the young quarterback, I think, has thrown like 3 interceptions or something like that in the last 2 games. So they really have to get going overall, and that's why they're only an 8.5-point favorite on the road in this one. So we're going to find out a lot about Ohio State. Are they for real? And remember, they lost a lot of players, a lot of key guys from the championship team. And Washington is just a much better team than last year. So I think this will be a fun game, and maybe not even a bad idea if you want to go this route and go with the money line. Say what the heck. All right, Indiana. Speaking of the Illinois, here's the flip coin side of it. Indiana, and I'm sorry, but I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to take Indiana here. Iowa can only score against pretty below average defenses, and Indiana is not a below average defense. Indiana's got a good defense and a very good offense. And Iowa's just being outclassed here. Now, the only thing I could see that could possibly hurt Indiana is they played like such a perfect game and now they're on the road, that maybe that hurts them a little bit here. It's their first road game of the season. And then there's a bye coming up too. But under Cignetti, they've won and covered all of their games as a road favorite so far. That was last year. They've also, as a program, covered 7 straight as a favorite of 14 or less. All right. They're 1-0 in that spot this year. Now, these teams haven't met since 2021. So that's way early. That's way, a time period. Indiana was a completely different program. So things were a lot different. Iowa's beating them 8 out of 9. That's no big surprise. This is the first home dog roll for Iowa since 2022. But they lost that game to Michigan by 13. So I don't put anything into that. I think Indiana is a definite play here. And with their offense, even though Iowa's got a pretty good defense, it's not a great defense. It's a defense that lost some key players from last year. And look, Rutgers went out and scored, 28 points or something like that last week. I don't see any reason to think Indiana can't do any better. They should. And they have a better defense than Rutgers. UCLA gets their new head coach, interim coach in this one. So that's a role I would stay away from. Now, here is another big one of the weekend, Oregon and Penn State. We'll have the Penn State postgame show. You can check that out right after this game. Wow, it'll be a late game. I guess I got to stay up. All right, so how about this? This is funny. I'm sure we'll talk about it tomorrow on the Playbook show at 1 o'clock Eastern. Head coach James Franklin is 1-15 straight up versus top 5 teams. Boy, does that suck. But get this. Oregon is ranked 6th. It doesn't count. So if you like Penn State, you're probably glad to hear that. And I am, because I like Penn State. They're my pick to win the national championship. I said that before the season began. Actually, no, they were picked to go to the national championship. Okay. But at this point, they're probably going to be, I'd probably still go with Penn State now, as long as they beat Oregon. So I haven't looked at the odds, the futures yet, because they're still too low. Matter of fact, it might be good if Penn State loses the game. So I'll because I haven't put any money on any. I never put future money on any odds, single digit odds. It's too early. But you got whiteout Saturday night, awesome atmosphere, intimidating atmosphere for some players. Remember, this is a lot of new players from Oregon. They've beaten up some pretty bad teams that they played. So Dante Moore has done a really good job so far, has not been in this situation. He's still a young quarterback that's making, I don't think he's made more than what, 5? No, actually he's made some starts at UCLA. So I don't even know if he's made 10 starts in his career yet, but he's never been in a situation like this before. And how about this? Okay. Dan Lanning, 1-4 straight up, 1-3-1 against the spread when he's not favored in the game. Just taking a look at something. Yeah. And you want to know when they won? That was last year when they beat Ohio State at home during the regular season. And they almost lost that one late. Also, Oregon, 0-5 straight up, 0-4-1 against the spread. Their last 5 as a road dog. Okay? So this is not a good spot for Dan Lanning or Oregon. They're also 1-8 against the spread off of a straight up lined non-conference win of 10 or more. And they're 0-1 this year in that role. It's the Big Ten championship game rematch, and I am going with Penn State. And since this is a night game, and it's one of the later games of the weekend, I'm probably going to maybe try to parlay this money line here, just in case. So, maybe I like Rutgers money line and Penn State money line, something like that. That's something I'll think about. Anyway, should be a real good game. Looking forward to it. I'm taking Penn State in that one. Oh, thanks, Roger. Thanks for that little additional tip. I mean, you know what? Maybe it's possible that both of these teams lose that this week. If you think about it, could happen. All right, let's go to the ACC. Where are we? There we go. Okay, ACC. And hey, why don't we start with a really underrated game on Friday night? There's 2 excellent games on Friday night. This is the early one, Florida State, Virginia. And this is actually going to be, how many do I have? I've got 2 upset picks, 2 upset plays that are 2-1. And I'm going to go with 4 double-digit plays. So in this is one of them, because I believe, and any time I'm going to pick like a single digit upset plays, because I think the game can go either way. And so anytime I think that, hey, I'm jumping on the money line, I'm taking 2-1. And I do think this game can go either way. I think this game could end up being Tony Elliott's big game. He's been waiting for this. What is this? His 4th year. He's just everything about trying to get this program, and going in the right direction. The former coordinator at Clemson, long time under Swinney. Things haven't worked out so far. But one of the problems is he hasn't been able to get that quarterback spot going. So he gets this Chandler Morris kid, a group of 5 kid last year, comes over. He's doing a really good job so far. And this offense is clearly Elliott's best offense. Absolutely, no question. They can score points. They got good situation going everywhere on offense. So, and how about this too? Here's a really good trend. Virginia is 11-1 against the spread as ACC dogs of 6 or more. All right. And that's not really a Virginia team that's been very good lately. So now this is their best team, I'd say. And I don't know, I got to look to really look at it, but it feels like 5 or 6 years, maybe longer. this could really be a special season. I'm not talking about anything crazy, of course, like ACC championship, but I'm talking about that next level. That next level off of being one of the top teams in the ACC. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen here on Friday night. Everybody should be with Florida State. I get it. They deserve it. They had the big win against Alabama. But let's just be real. It's they had one big win against Alabama that they had the entire offseason to prepare for with a good coaching staff. They haven't played anybody since then. So now they go on the road for the first time. And this is going to be a lot different. And Virginia, they actually have a pretty easy schedule. So if they can win this game, they could be in that spot I talked about as a team that, maybe gets into the mix for the ACC title, but just can't get it done. For Florida State, you know who they're playing next week? Miami at home. You don't think they're ready for that one? So if you're looking at a look-ahead situation, here it is. Now, the one thing that I would say that maybe would help if you're a Florida State guy is it's a nationally televised game. So most kids are not going to want to look ahead at games when they're under the lights, the only game in town on a Friday night. So that I think matters. But the fact is, they still should be looking ahead a little bit to Miami, and I think that could hurt them here because it's a big number at 7. It's not a 3-point spread. It's 7. And I think if Florida State covers this game, I think they cover it late in the fourth quarter. But I'm going to say that this is going to be that type of game. I think it's going to go down to the fourth quarter. And if Virginia could just make a few plays, if Florida State, being on the road first time with this group, makes a few mistakes, being on national TV, being the favorite now, not the dog, not the big dog that nobody gave any chance to with Alabama. This is a different role. Okay. And so I'm going to, and check this out too. If this means anything, the Seminoles are 1-5 against the spread. Their last 6 when they play on weekdays. Why did my mic go out? 9:52. Okay, it just went out. I don't know why it does that. That aggravates me to all hell. I don't touch anything, and the mic just decides to go out. That just happens like way too often lately. All right. Anyway, so let's start off again because I think I've been muted for this game. So Arizona State, 3-point favorite. TCU's the real deal. They had the big win last week. We liked them last week a lot, as you remember. They came through second half to beat SMU. Big win. Hoover's experienced quarterback. So he is definitely one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12. But Arizona State also had a major win last week at Baylor. They were pretty much a field goal dog. A lot of people, picking Baylor to win the Big 12 this year, and they're not. But Arizona State, late in the game, they get behind, and Levitt marches that team down the field. Big pass to one of these not star players. This little white receiver. I think he's a sophomore, but these are the type of guys you need. And it was like a 50-yard catch. put him in range, and then Tyson gets the game-winning touchdown. Of course he does. He was pretty stifled most of the game, but the big stars come through, and Arizona State beats Baylor. And check this out. Under Kenny Dillingham, the hot coach, who's doing a great job with the program, Arizona State 6-0, straight up and against the spread as a home favorite. 1-0 in that role this year. So as a second-year head coach, Dillingham has never lost a cover as a home favorite. And they've also covered 6 straight on weekday games, which are really weeknight games for the most part, since 2019. First meeting of these two teams since 1975. First dog roll of the year for TCU. Keep in mind that, of course, they had the road game at North Carolina to start the season. And yeah, look, really good game. Arizona State was my third or fourth top play of the week. So I was really thinking about taking it for my Wise Guy contest, but I decided not to because TCU is a good team. But I'm going to go ahead and roll with Arizona State. This is a big spread. This is another Friday night game. This is really the nightcap. But I really like Willie Fritz, and I think this is the team that look. It's only year 2. It's not like he's been there for 4 or 5 years. But this is clearly his better team than last year's team. He gets the Texas A&M transfer quarterback, which is a big addition for him. They've outgained all 3 of the teams that they played so far by a lot, by over 100 yards in every game. So remember, we liked them last week in the weeknight game against Colorado. That went well. First meeting of these two teams since 1970. Oregon State. This is another team that we've talked a lot about with the coach, sort of like what we said with the Pry with Virginia Tech. We've been saying the same thing with Trent Bray. It's just a matter of time. He will not be the head coach at Oregon State next season. I think because he's been like a good assistant under Jonathan Smith and, a good guy for the program. I don't know if they would fire him during the season. And if he can get a win like this, then that'll save his season, but he'll still be gone. They're just not good enough. This is, Jonathan Smith. I don't know if you want to say he left him in a bad shape or not. I think that it's a big difference when you're Oregon and you're not going to have conference affiliation, and it wasn't a great position to lead Trent Bray. I'm not trying to tell you that Trent Bray was given some golden keys or something like that, but he's just not really head coach material. Under Bray, Oregon State is 4-10-1 against the spread. So yeah, why would you take Oregon State in this spot? I wouldn't. I'll take Houston. I'm not going to love them because it's a big spread. 13.5 is a lot of points, in a night game, national TV, all that. But I definitely wouldn't take Oregon State. And we got some more here. All right. So I mentioned at the beginning of the season that I like Cincinnati as a sleeper team in the Big 12. And so far, so good. I mean, they had a really tough loss to Nebraska. A lot of people thought that was going to be a neutral site. We all know what happened there. It was all Nebraska fans. And so that was a good road loss to Nebraska. Since then, they've been fine. Sorsby, the quarterback, has done as good as a job as we had hoped. But now it's another, big test because they're playing Kansas. They were just in Kansas a few weeks ago when they lost to Nebraska. Not the same stadium. Couple of trends that do work our way too here. Kansas is 0-9-2 against the spread in their last 11 when they take on an opponent with a win percentage of 400 or better coming off of a week of rest. And Cincinnati's covered 6 straight on the road when they take on an opponent with a win percentage of 750 or more off a straight up win. That's Kansas. And Kansas had that loss to Missouri, which I think kind of is a reason why I'm taking Cincinnati here, because the wins so far Kansas has had this season is, I think, where they're 3-1, have been just against teams that they should be beating. I mean, they're overmatching these teams. But then they get overmatched when they go on the road against a really good, underrated Missouri team that really kind of blew them out after sacrificing like a 2-score lead by Kansas early on. And I just think that, now that I'm not saying, of course, Cincinnati is Missouri, but I just think that this is a vulnerable team. And I think that if Cincinnati is going to be the sleeper team that I said they could be, then they obviously have to win this one. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. And it's not a big play or anything, but hey, they're plus 170 on the money line. That's the way I'm going to go. I'm going to take the Bearcats in the money line. Central Florida, Scott Frost. Nice to see they're off to a good start, but they haven't played anybody. Now they're on the road, and they're playing a team for real. Now, we don't really know what to make of Kansas State so far because Chris Kleiman's a really good coach, but this has just not gone well. A lot of people expected some big things for Kansas State this year, but early in the season when we were predicting the Big 12, we just didn't see what they were seeing because they've lost a lot of talent here. Yes, Avery Johnson's still there. And maybe that's what it was. Quarterback's been really, what is this, year 3 or something like that? He's been playing since a true freshman. The problem is Avery Johnson's just not getting any better. A lot of people thought Avery Johnson was going to be the star quarterback. It was a big-time recruit pickup for them. He just hasn't been that. And they had to – I remember we liked Arizona last week. What was it, a Friday night? I think something like that. And they just looked awful. They got – I don't even think they had 200 yards of offense. 0-3 straight up and against the spread versus FBS teams. The only win they had was versus North Dakota from the FCS, and they won that game by 3. Okay, so the only thing that I would be timid about if you're taking Central Florida is that K-State had the week off. And again, like I said before, college kids, resilient, they had the week off. So they're trying to reset here. Let's just reset. We got a long way to go for the rest of the season. We could still win this thing. I guess you could look at it that way, and look, we don't know about Central Florida at all, but they do have a quarterback, that Tavian Jackson, who I think is a fine, decent quarterback for where Central Florida is right now. He's got a little experience coming in this season, dual threat type as well. Nowhere. I mean, this is not the Central Florida team that Scott Frost wants to eventually get to. We know that. But the way Kansas State's played this season, I mean, take the points, I guess, right? And maybe the plus 185 is not even a bad idea. I just got to believe that Kansas State, because of the week off, will kind of maybe get back to what we've seen before of them. And who knows? I mean, maybe they'll just come out and just wallop Central Florida. I have no idea because we don't really know anything about Central Florida at this point either. All right. Oklahoma State, they finally got rid of Gundy. And 1 week, I guess, it was good that they got rid of him last week because, as you know, we took Tulsa last week as our double-digit upset play. We went 1-1, and that's all you got to do. In double-digit upset plays, all you have to do is really, depending on how many you hit, all you can do is, how many you pick. You only have to usually hit 1. That's what I like about the double-digit upset plays. So, but Oklahoma State, it's a shock how things fell apart for Gundy. Shame. We still have 2 more games we like. Iowa State, this is, look, I've really been behind this Arizona program since Jed Fish. I really like the way that he was building the program up. And then just when he had the program ready to go, like the next year was going to be the big year for Arizona with Fafita at quarterback and Ted McMillan at wide receiver and everything else. And he bolts for Washington. And then McMillan gets drafted and Brennan takes over late because it wasn't like he left like right away. It was a late thing and Brennan came in late. The team just was not ready for all that last year. But now Brennan's got a whole offseason to get things going. He's a good coach. He's rebuilt programs before successfully, and he's doing a good job with them now. And we liked them last week. Remember, they had the big win against Kansas State, and it was closer than it should have been. And that's kind of the problem I'm having here is that I don't know if Arizona can do this now on the road. I think they've done as well as they should have at this point. They're 3-0, 2-0 against the spread. Iowa State's 4-0, coming off. Both teams are coming off a week off, so there's that. But I just think that this is one of those spots that I'm fearful for Arizona that they might this might not even be pretty by the fourth quarter. I don't know, but I'm kind of getting back to the feeling I like last year, because that's what they did. They went on the road last year and they just got annihilated. And matter of fact, they were 1-4 against the spread on the road last year. And how about this too? They're 1-12 against the spread as a conference road dog of less than 19 when they take on an opponent off back-to-back straight-up wins. That's 1-12. And more importantly, if you like Iowa State like I do, Matt Campbell is 40-21 straight up at home, 15-6 straight up, 16-4 against the spread when they come off an ATS loss. So that's pretty impressive to me. That basically means that when they don't really play up to standard, he rights the ship really quickly and gets them going in the right direction, especially with a week to prepare. The problem that I'm having with Iowa State, though, this is where I'm still not totally set on Iowa State being a big pick for me this week, is just that they're kind of limited as well. You know, they lost their big time, two huge 1,000-yard receivers, and their passing game is nowhere near like it was last year. They just don't have an explosive passing game, and they're relying now on a couple of running backs that are just okay. So the offense is not really dynamic, and they're a good team because they're well coached and they've got an experienced quarterback. That's it. So look, if this was last year's team, man, I think they just annihilate Arizona in this spot, but it's not. So I'll take our Iowa State. I'll give the 6, and I'm going to be intrigued to see, just how good this Arizona team is. But I kind of get the feeling that Iowa State, probably wins this one before the fourth quarter, but we'll see. Okay, one more to go in the Big 12, and another game we like, BYU. The spread's now up to 7. It was just 6 a little while ago, 5 on Monday. So the odds are going the way I think they should, because BYU is clearly a better team than Colorado. And they even upset Colorado in the bowl game last year, and they blew them out. And that was an easy pick. I remember that one. They've covered 6 straight when they take on an opponent with a 500 or better win percentage, coming in with revenge, which Colorado is after the bowl blowout. And remember this, just a few weeks ago, Delaware, nice little story from the FCS to the FBS and the Conference USA, and that's all nice. And they upset UConn, and that's nice. But they outgained Delaware by 2 yards. Okay, I think we all know what Colorado is right now. They're a team that will probably maybe win 6 games or go to a bowl, and that's about it. But BYU's got bigger aspirations. They are a Big 12 championship contender. They've got a freshman quarterback that just keeps getting more and more experience and just keeps getting better. They've got a really good underrated running back that not many people know who he is in LJ Martin. They've got a couple really good receivers, including Chase Roberts, and a very good defense and a top flight coaching staff. BYU's coaching staff is here and Colorado's down here. Okay. So yeah. Look, it's 7. It's on the road. It's a late night game. We've seen a lot of crazy stuff go on in Colorado in these late night games. So anything is possible there. I get it, but BYU is just a better team. And I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe Colorado gets their revenge and this is their biggest win of the year, and because they're not going anywhere. Even if they were to upset BYU, they're not going anywhere. So maybe they get a big upset win, but I still think BYU is a really solid play, and that's the way I'm going to go. And that's it for the FBS Power 4. Let's now slip into the American. Yeah, Roger, just want to let you know, I guess you checked in late. You're going to have to check in to the on-demand portion of the video because we started with Notre Dame and Arkansas. That was the very first game, and I'm all over Notre Dame. So I don't know why the odds have dropped to 4.5. It's because there was a lot of people betting on Arkansas, but I guess that my retort to that is I don't know why. Okay. AAC, this is a Thursday night game. And keep this in mind for this game. East Carolina has got to deal with the triple option on a short week. It's tough enough to deal with the triple option when you have to prepare in only a week. East Carolina's got to prepare in a short week. So just remember that. Army beat East Carolina last year at home by 17. And this was before East Carolina fired their coach. Their new coach has taken over, has done a really good job. But last week, we liked East Carolina, thought that they were going to take that next step against BYU, and it didn't happen. They had a really bad early turnover in that game, and they were done after that. Army just 1-7 against the spread after they allow 35 or more, and that was a real exciting loss they had against North Texas in that one. A lot of points they gave up, but North Texas is right now they've been playing better than East Carolina, so that's not something that not by a lot, but that's not something that I think really matters in this one. Anyway, I don't know. I think the one thing that I would just be wary of if you're taking East Carolina is the short week to prepare for the triple option. Remember, I said this on Monday with this line here in South Alabama because I had to do some more research on that because I could not figure out what the heck happened to South Alabama last week against Coastal. Because Coastal has done nothing all year, and Tim Beck's another head coach that will not be coaching his team next year. Okay, he's gone. He should be gone. If they would have got blown out by South Alabama, I think he would have been gone this week. But South Alabama goes into the second half in that game. They got the lead, and then all of a sudden, they got a couple of turnovers. They had a terrible punt that led a punt and a turnover that led to 2 touchdowns for Coastal. And then to top it all off at the end of, when South Alabama was hoping to get into it, they had a fumble return for a touchdown, which put the game out of reach. So they were a disaster in the second half at home. They just gave the game away to Coastal. This is why this is one of those games, sort of like Illinois. That's why I'm willing to give Illinois a break for 1 week. Because remember, there's all those trends that were all Brett Bielema and Illinois and on the road dog and all that stuff. And so when something like just goes crazily wrong in one game or one half, I'm not going to throw all that out. I'm willing to give that team another week. And that's what I'm going to do with South Alabama. They had a really good loss when they lost a competitive game to Tulane. They had a really good loss when they were not blown out at LSU. I think it was LSU. And so they're in a situation now where all of a sudden, because they had one bad half, I guess they're no good now. Because there's no way they're a 12-point dog if they go on to blow out Coastal last week. I think it's 7. And then I'd be okay. And I'd be like, all right, maybe South Alabama would still be a nice little money line play. But now they're 4-1 on the money line. That's a little bit too much for me. I'm willing to give them a shot here. This would be my last shot with South Alabama to say that, there's more there. And maybe they could take advantage of a team that had the overtime win, big emotional win. And let's keep this in mind too. North Texas has had 2 overtime wins this year. And we know Army's not the same team last year, so they're not as good as they were last year. And then they go into Western Michigan. Yes, we've talked highly of Western Michigan as a nice program in the MAC, maybe a nice little sleeper to keep an eye on. But still, it was overtime to Western Michigan. So, and they were losing that game late. They were very fortunate to take that game in overtime and win it. So here they've beaten Western Michigan and Army in overtime. And they're a 2-touchdown favorite against South Alabama. Now, maybe some of that has to do with the fact that they're 8-2 against the spread as a home favorite since 2021. They annihilated Washington State a couple of weeks ago in the same spot. But again, I'm just going to give South Alabama the shot here. I'll give them a shot. I think it's worth it. And they will be one of my double-digit upset plays of the week at plus 380. And then here is another double-digit upset play I'm going to go with. That's right. I'm going to take on Rice here. And I've mentioned already this season, I really like the hire of Scott Abel, the Davidson coach who had some success in the FCS. And I think it's the really good hiring at Rice. This is actually a matchup of 2 of the 3 option teams in college football, triple option teams in college football. That's what Rice has turned themselves into, triple option team. So I think that could be interesting. Anyway, it's a lot of points. It's 14.5 points. And remember this, because I picked him last year in the same spot, same role. I had Rice as a double-digit upset pick last year. They were getting 13 at home against Navy, and they upset Navy. Matter of fact, they won that game easy. So here they are a year later, and they're in the same spot. So it's like, I know it's at Navy. I get it. And Navy's a good team. Navy will win probably at this point. The early season schedule Navy's pretty manageable. But I think at week 7 or 8, it gets really hard. So if they're going to have any chance, obviously they got to beat Rice and probably win handily. But they did not win handily a few weeks ago when they took on UAB. That was a really close game until late. We know UAB has not been that very good under Trent Dilfer, even though John Kitna's kid is playing pretty well for them at quarterback. We might take a look at UAB as an upset play at some point this season. But anyway, keep this in mind. This is important, maybe, if you want to look at it. Navy's 1-9 against the spread as a favorite in the first of back-to-back home games. The thing that works against Rice, and I'm going to full disclosure, if you like Navy, you'll like this one. Rice is 0-7-1 against the spread as road dogs of less than 17. When they take on an opponent with a greater than 600 win percentage. Of course, Navy hasn't lost yet. But yeah, I think this is as good as a double-digit upset play as there might be out there. So I say, what the hell? Let's see. And then this is the one I'm definitely going to be the most concerned with out of my double-digit upsets. But yes, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to take FAU against Memphis. And this is because, and I think first half play might be real. I don't do halves, but if you want to take the first half, it might be good to take Florida Atlantic because they're coming off a bye. All right. So you got them coming off a bye. They lose to FIU. So they're not happy about that. They come off a bye and they take on a Memphis team coming off this major win, big win. The type of win where a lot of the college kids are walking on campus, like, the shit don't stink and they're getting blowjobs and, in the car and all that kind of stuff. That's exactly what's going on here with Memphis this week. So I think this is a really good spot. The combination of week off to prepare, fired up to try to get something good going, and a Memphis team that they think their shit don't stink. So, and especially when, look, this is not the Memphis teams from a couple of years ago or last year. This is so far so good. They're now third in my poll for the group of 5. They earned their way in with the win of Arkansas. Good for them. I still don't think they're capable of being the group of 5 representative. And in that Troy game, I still thought that would have been a close game if it wasn't for the quarterback going down for Troy. We'll see. Look, FAU could be really bad. We don't know because, they got a young coach, Kitley, never been a head coach before, big offensive guy out of Texas Tech. First time he's had an opportunity to head coach a team off a bye. And sometimes coaches know what they're doing with that. Sometimes they don't. It is South Florida. So, when you have a bye, I don't know what those kids are doing, but it's kind of hard to maybe wrangle them in. But we'll find out. We'll find out how good a coach Kitley is in this matchup against Memphis. So I say, what the heck? I think the combination might work in your favor if you're looking. Because, look, anytime you look for double-digit dogs, I would say that 75% of the time, there are games that you just would never expect a team to win. Never. Quarter of those games, you actually can try to come up with, hey, this is a good team. They're just getting too many points. And you can come up with a reason why it makes sense. And I have one more left. And that might be kind of what I'm talking about. But we'll get to that when we talk about actually, I think we're going to get into that now in the Mountain West. San Diego State we like against Northern Illinois. See, San Diego State looked really bad, or at least things didn't really look good the first couple of games. Then they go on a bye. They come out of the bye and just annihilate Cal, 34-0. So again, in a situation where early in the season, the bye helped a struggling team, even though they were 1-1, but they just weren't looking good because they had that Who did they get blown out by? I forget. Anyway, so, but I did some research on this, and a lot of trends say take San Diego State. Sean Lewis, the head coach, is 9-3 straight up and against the spread when he takes on opponents off back-to-back straight-up losses, like Northern Illinois. Lewis is 5-0 straight up and against the spread when his team has a win percentage of 400 or better. Wow, is that really? Did I really say that right? Because that means that his teams aren't really over 400. I didn't miss something in that. That doesn't sound right. I mean, it could be right. Let me see. Oh, I'll show you everybody once again. This is the playbook. This is the Bible is what you really have to call this now for NFL and college football handicapping. Mark Lawrence's Bible. You can order this, of course, by going to playbooksports.com. Here it is. So Sean Lewis is 9-3 straight up and against the spread versus foes coming off consecutive losses, including 5-0 straight up and against the spread when his team owns a 400 or greater win percentage. Okay, so including. So that's why it was just only a very small number of 5 games, because it's still talking about the fact that the teams he's playing are coming in with back-to-back straight-up losses. Okay. I have to keep checking to make sure my mic isn't off. Now, here's another one that this is research I did. I'm proud of myself, but I do the research, of course, because I have the guide. And that is that San Diego State is 6-1 straight up, 5-2 against the spread their last 9 years taking on MAC teams, including 3-0 against the spread away from home. Okay. They were also 6-0 straight up all time versus Northern Illinois. So Northern Illinois, not the team they were last year that knocked off Notre Dame. So, but look, we don't really know if San Diego State's for real. Oh, there was Washington State. That was the team that San Diego State, because remember, and I think we even wondered why, because it was strange. San Diego State was like a 1-point favorite at Washington State. And I remember at the time we were like, why? Why is San Diego State a 1-point favorite over Washington State on the road? But and they get blown out. And it was like, okay, you see, well, why were they? I didn't get that. But look, the bottom line is they did rebound after the bye, after the loss, and then they came back and they had the blowout win over Cal. So maybe they are okay. Again, maybe they just had a bad loss, bad night. It happens. So I'm willing to give them another shot here, especially with those numbers. All right. We got another one we like. Oh, this is a nice little rivalry. If you're out west, New Mexico State. Now check this one out. New Mexico is 1-9 against the spread when they take on opponents coming off a bye. New Mexico State is 8-0 against the spread in their last 8 when they take on opponents coming off a bye. Both teams are coming off a bye. So basically what that says is New Mexico State good, New Mexico not good when they're facing teams off byes. Now, this is obviously a rivalry. And what do we have that? I don't know. Did I not check out did I forget to do that? Check out their rivalry. Let's see if there's any rivalry numbers here. Let's see. I think I forgot. New Mexico last year, they beat them by 50-40. So they won at New Mexico. They covered. The year before that, they got upset at home. Okay. So that means the road team has won the last 2 outright. The spreads are single digit the last 2 years. And then the road team lost in 2022, which was New Mexico. So New Mexico State's beaten New Mexico 2 of the last 3 years. And they've split the last 4 years. Okay. So there, it's not like this is, even though New Mexico is Mountain West and New Mexico State in a weaker conference, it's a nice rivalry and it's a big number, 14 points. Look, I like what I see from New Mexico so far. This is not. I mean, remember they had that decent loss to Michigan, and then they blew out UCLA that fired their coach. This Eck coach was the Idaho coach, a successful FCS coach. Remember, we said this at the beginning of the season. This is part of it. I mean, it's like I love the fact that each week we can talk about all these really good FCS coaches that have successful ones that have come over and they're trying to rebuild these programs in the FBS. I think it's awesome. Anyway, Eck also brought the quarterback from Idaho to New Mexico, and they've been doing so far so good. That's why it's 14. But this is a rivalry, and strange things can happen in rivalries. Here's one that works against the Lobos big time. We told you about the rest stuff, the buy numbers that didn't work out for New Mexico either. How about this? They're 2-15 against the spread in their last 17 as a home favorite the last 10 years. 2-15. That's when you know you don't have a really good program there. Okay. So I guess it's telling you to take New Mexico State. Here's another dog play that we're going to take, another 2-1. We took Virginia at 2-1. We're going to take Hawaii at 2-1 as well. They had a really tough loss to Fresno last week. They outgained Fresno, but they had a late touchdown, could not get the 2-point conversion to take it to overtime. They lose that game. Look, we've spoke highly about Hawaii's chances this year in the preview, and they haven't done anything to disappoint us. They had the week 1 win against Stanford. They had a game, this Fresno game, they probably should have won or could have won, I should say. And they've outgained 4 of their 5 opponents. The only one they haven't outgained was Arizona, of course. I mean, that's major level of competition. And they're 3-1 against the spread on the year. Air Force is 0-2 against the spread, straight up, and ATS versus FBS teams so far. And they've given up 98 points in those 2 games. So their defense, which is their calling card the last several years, not good. Now, they finally saw some production, though, from the quarterback, this kid Zarka. And remember, in the beginning of the year, when we were talking about Air Force's chances, and they could be a nice sleeper team because we expected their defense was going to be better. So could they find a quarterback to replace the other quarterback that got them on a roll late last season? But he graduated. So could they find that new quarterback? Well, this was one of them that we talked about, this Zarka kid. And he finally broke out last week, had a major game in the loss to Boise. And that was a competitive game. That one was back and forth. It's just that Boise had established a 2-score lead. And once they did, then it was back and forth. Air Force would get within a score. Boise would go up 2 scores. And it was like that for like a whole half or more. So that's good for Air Force. And they've got Navy next. So keep that in mind. And it's this big number. I mean, it's not like it's 3 or 2 or anything like that. So you can get 7. And I think Hawaii deserves the benefit of the doubt. I know it's a road game, and Hawaii is always tough to go with that direction, off the mainland, head to the east, head to the coast. But they're actually not terrible in these spots. So I'm going to go ahead and take Hawaii as an upset play. Why not? And give them a shot here. Because they could really use like a big win. Like if they want to get into the mix of being the sleeper team we thought that they could be, they've got to win a game like this. And here is our final double-digit play that I think has a little bit more in the lines of what I was talking about, where you've got a program, a winning program like Appalachian State. They've had the history of these types of upsets and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at it, the reason why even on Monday I just didn't really have a feeling for Appalachian State at all was because they didn't play anybody. But doing the research, going over everything, I think they have a shot here. And the reason I think they have a shot is because even though they haven't played anybody good, and they have a loss, so that doesn't really that's not. And again, that's the whole reason why I said that early on Monday that I didn't really have a good feel for Appalachian State. But they have outgained all of their opponents pretty comfortably. And what they've done is in the transfer portal, they brought in a nice quarterback, a nice running back, and a nice receiver. So that really gives this offense a shot. So they got, Swan, the quarterback, was a quarterback at Vanderbilt a few years ago when actually, I think they had like a big upset win or two when he was the quarterback. So they've got really good transfer players at all three key positions on offense so they can score. So they're good there. They're also 8-0-1 against the spread off a double-digit straight-up road loss, and 8-1 against the spread as dogs of 6 or more. So that's good. So if you want to take 16, I think that should be pretty decent. Now, Boise's been a good home favorite, though. They're 12-4-1 in that role in the last 17. That's kind of why, especially when I'm doing, just for me, when I'm doing double-digit money line upsets, I kind of stick with the money line. Because a lot of times, if you don't hit it, like if you don't got it, like, hey, anytime you're looking for an upset in college like that, you need to have everything go your way. And yeah, I got it. But when you don't got it, then a lot of times, well, hey, you were a big dog for a reason, and you're gonna get blown out. So that's why I just stick with the money line plays most of the time. But again, I can see why you'd want to take 16. Now, the other reason, and one of the bigger reasons why I'm taking this, is because we all know, or should know, what's going on next week for Boise. They're going to South Bend, Indiana to take on the Irish in what is going to be a monster game for the program. So I think that matters. They're a big favorite going to Notre Dame next week. They got an Appalachian State program that's got some talent, they tradition, and they have some guys that can put things together for you offensively and make things dangerous. So that's why I think, hey, why not? We'll give them a shot as a double-digit upset play. Okay. The other thing, too, about taking double-digit upsets all the time, especially when you take, between 3 and 5 a week. And once again, the trick is, or the key is, you just got to hit one of them to at least break even or make a little bit of money, is that you wind up in a lot of situations where more often than not, statistically speaking, you're going to lose. And statistically speaking, you're going to lose big. So there's a lot of games that you wind up taking double-digit upsets, and you just sometimes I'll have like 2 or 3 weeks a year where I don't hit anything, and obviously, not obviously, but then I'll lose the game, and like all these games are getting blown out. Like I'll go, hey, these are my 4 double-digit upsets of the week, and all 4 teams lose by like 30. That's what happens. That's the risk you take, but. When you're handicapping games, you don't, you have to have no ego, and you have to put all that stuff, that's old news. Okay. What is this? Just saw this here. This is Liberty. K-State lost to Army, which the prior week, Army lost to a team I never heard of. Yeah, you're talking about, I think, Tarleton State, I think it was. It was an FCS team. It was their opener, but they were a good team last year, I believe, from what I recall. So it's one of those FCS teams that actually had a successful season the season prior. So that's why you never heard of them, because they were an FCS team. All right, Sun Belt. Our James Madison boys are doing well. Louisiana Monroe. So I was thinking of taking Louisiana Monroe because, you might have heard early in the season, I thought they might be a sleeper in the Sun Belt, even though they lost to Mott Hardy, my boy. So we'll see. They're 2-1, and they would have to win this game. Well, they're 1-0 straight up and against the spread as a home favorite under Brian Vincent, their head coach. This is the second year, so that's good. It's a 1-point favorite. But how about this? This is not good. They are 3-18 against the spread when they take on an opponent off back-to-back straight-up losses. Not good. But you want to know what's worse? This is the stat of the week. You ready? Arkansas State is 15-0 straight up and against the spread versus Louisiana Monroe. That's right. 15-0. The last 15 times they played. And they play just about every year. So I can't take Louisiana Monroe this week. I can't do it because these two trends, are making me actually want to take Arkansas State now, but I'll just stay away from it. But you can take it. Why wouldn't you, right? Okay, remember on Monday I said I didn't know why the spread was so big. There's got to be an injury, something to the quarterback. Well, there was. Vasco got hurt in the game last week in the loss to James Madison and shoulder injury, and it's not looking good for him to play this week. Still not out, but not looking good. Liberty 0-3 straight up and against the spread versus FBS teams this year by 38 points combined. That's not good. Old Dominion, our little team from the Sun Belt that we like a lot with Ronnie, the head coach, and they have had a nice season. You know, the Indiana loss actually looks pretty good right now, but this is danger. They're 0-6 against the spread as a home favorite since 2022, and it's a big number. Yeah, boy, how Liberty is just completely falling apart. All right. Let's see. This is still some games there. I don't think I care about those. And then we have only a couple more to go. The MAC. This line is dropped to 8.5. Bowling Green has covered 5 straight as road dogs, including 2-0 in the spot this year. They've covered all 3 of the games this year. So, yeah, I mean, I can see why the spread's gone down a little bit to Ohio -8. But Ohio is still better than Bowling Green, and they're at home. So it's, I don't know, it's getting a little bit too low for me. The next one is Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan. And I do like Central Michigan here because I think they're a better team than Eastern Michigan. But check out these trends. Central Michigan is 1-14 against the spread in their last 15 when they take on losing teams the last 4 years. And 1-8 against the spread their last 9 as a home favorite since 2022. That's pretty bad. But they've covered 10 straight as MAC home favorites of less than 19 after they score 35 or more. The trend that I think is the most important would be the first 2, though, which is why I'm not going to take this game now. Because those are, home favorite. That's more of a normal trend to me. And taking on losing teams. That's it. It's pretty simple. The other one, less than 19 after you score 35. That's a little bit more of a playbook special. So, and it's 6. And Eastern Michigan's coming off a big win against Lafayette, Louisiana. Yeah, I still think Central Michigan's a better team, but those trends are going to keep me away. And one more. In this conference, UConn is a 3.5-point favorite as an independent at Buffalo. We told you what we thought about Buffalo earlier in the broadcast with the whole Minnesota Rutgers game. Well, UConn beat Buffalo last year 47-3. And I don't think UConn is worse than they were last year. I think they're just the same team they basically were last year talent-wise. Buffalo's supposed to be better, but they haven't shown it. So they're 0-4 against the spread in the second game of back-to-back home games since 2021. And they had the loss last week, as I mentioned before, as a home favorite against Troy with their backup quarterback. But UConn is only 0-2-1 against the spread this year. Yeah, they've had the overtime loss to Delaware. But also, remember, they had a double-digit lead to Syracuse in the fourth quarter, and they blew that. So, UConn is a more talented team than Buffalo. So, I would take UConn. There's maybe revenge here for Buffalo, but come on. It's 44 points. How much revenge can you conjure up 44 points with? And then the final conference is Conference USA, the crappy conference. And do we leave? Oh, how about Kennesaw State? Not only are they favored for the first time in the FBS last year and this year, but they're given 7.5. Okay. And Middle Tennessee State beat Kennesaw State last year 14-5. This is actually not a bad idea if you want to take Middle Tennessee State. The coach, I think he's the running back coach in the NFL. So the kid, the Mac, the head coach, is doing a pretty good job in his first year. So we'll see. There's that, and that. I was thinking about Louisiana Tech, but then I noticed this trend: 2-17 straight up on the road in the last 19. That is pitiful. 2-17 straight up. And they're giving points. And UTEP has got that 5-star quarterback that everybody thought was going to be the starter at Boise State. And he's been doing pretty good so far. So, yeah, UTEP, I don't think it's, I think they might have an upset in them this year. I wouldn't do this one, though. That's not big enough. Now we're going to close. Oh, let's just close our college football talk with our top picks. All right, so we're going to go with Notre Dame, Rutgers, Indiana, Arizona State, Cincinnati, Iowa State, and BYU. And Rutgers is going to be our biggest pick so far in college. Now we're 3-0 so far in our top picks this year. So fingers crossed, especially this week with my Rutgers team. And then in the upsets, we're going to go Hawaii and Virginia as the 2-1 upset plays, and the double-digit plays upsets are South Alabama, Rice, FAU, and App State. Now, let's talk about the NFL. And before we talk about the NFL, or we go over the games, I want to I'm doing Survivor for the first time. Sportsbook. Hey, you can have a couple of free entries into the Survivor. And I said, all right, I've never done it before. Let me do it. And then maybe I'll do it next year for real. Put some money in a Survivor league. So far, so good. It's only been a couple of weeks. I got 2 entries. We haven't lost yet in either one. But I figured, hey, why don't we just talk about it each week? Now, it's kind of hard to do that because you should have a strategy when you do this, especially for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. So it's a no-brainer. If you're in a Survivor League, you have to look ahead to Thanksgiving and Black Friday, and you've got to already make your picks so you know which teams you're leaving there, because some of these contests, if you don't have a team that's left, obviously, or if you do, let's say, oh, those are the only 2 teams I have left, and they're 10-point dog on Thanksgiving or something like that. So don't forget that. Make sure that you look ahead to those games. But this week, I think the teams to take are Buffalo, Detroit, and Houston. And I haven't taken Detroit or Houston yet. So that's probably the way that I'm going to go with my 2 entries, because I took Buffalo last week against Miami. So I think I'll do that. I'll probably go Detroit and Houston with mine this week. Now, let's get into Thursday night NFL. And this is going to be one of my plays. Matter of fact, this is my wise guy play in the NFL. And I came really close to taking Detroit as my second play. I have 4 picks this week, and I was going back and forth. But I decided, Seattle did real good for me last week as my top play in annihilating New Orleans. And I'm feeling it in this. This is one of those games where I'm feeling it with the team, and I've got some data to back it up. And the data is going to be Seattle has beaten Arizona 7 straight times, and they've covered 6 of the last 7. So, hey, I'm basically, now they were an underdog. They were like what? A 1-point dog. Now they're a 1-point favorite. And matter of fact, in the Wise Guy contest, they have to come out with the picks like on Monday. And so whatever the lines are on Monday, you get them. And I was fortunate enough to get them at 2.5, but I'm not jumping into that kind of deal because last year, I think it was last year or the year before, it was when, I don't know if you remember, but when San Francisco went to Cleveland, and what was the thing? I think it was the injury situation. Because remember, this is when, man, I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it was the San Francisco Cleveland game, but it had to do where the line came out, but then the injury report came in later in the week, and the line completely changed. So instead of, I think it was San Francisco had lost like a lot of, like Trent Williams didn't play and maybe McCaffrey didn't play, something like that. And they were like, what were they? They were, I don't know. They were, it was a big number earlier in the week. And damn, I'm forgetting what it was because I'm thinking it's something else. But the bottom line is, well, let's scratch that. Just remember, the fact is that the line changed, and it changed like 5 points or something between the beginning of the week and and reality. And I had the edge. Basically, I was getting like 6 free points. And so I was wow. I thought I don't have to give this, and I'm getting this. So this must be a really big break for me, and this must make things very easy for me. No, I lost. So even though I had like almost like a touchdown change in the odds that worked in my benefit, it didn't matter. So that's why I was just saying with Seattle, even though they're a 1.5 point favorite now, and they were getting 2.5, and they were 2.5 on Monday. So I'm getting the 2.5, and I don't have to give the 1.5, but I didn't even bother with that. I was just like, okay, good. I'm getting a couple extra points. Maybe that'll do me good, because I know this is not going to be an easy game. I mean, these are the two teams that we talked about in the beginning of the season, that when we said that the NFC West was going to be very competitive, and this is what we meant, that Seattle and Arizona were more than qualified to battle and to maybe be a sleeper championship team in this division. And so far, that's exactly what we're getting. So Arizona was a 1 play away from covering the game last week against San Francisco. So that would have kept them undefeated. Seattle, they had the big win against Pittsburgh to get their season going, and then they blew out New Orleans. And if you look at it here, if Seattle does stay the favorite, though, all right, this is not good. They're 3-11-2 in that role in the last 16. Okay. But hey, I'm getting 2.5. So that role, if Arizona changes, let's say, and I don't think it will, it's tomorrow. So let's say Arizona gets to be the favorite by game time. Seattle's 8-3-1 as a road dog, and 1-0 in that spot this year. So, yeah, for what that's worth. So anyway, Arizona 0-5 against the spread at home versus winning division opponents. And I just, I think there's some good trends to go on. I think the biggest one of all, that it's the one that I care most of all, are the matchups. And so when I get all the other trends coming in, negative, positive, whatever, I don't care. What I care about, first off, more than anything, are matchups. And Seattle has won 7 straight times they played Arizona. And I feel good about that, because I did feel Seattle was going to be a better team than Arizona this year. Not by a lot, but that was the team I was going to side with. And if that's going to be the case, then this is a great way to prove that. So we'll see. That's taking Seattle, and we'll see if and the other thing too is there are injuries. That's another reason I like Seattle in this one. So yes, Seattle has their own injury issues. There's no question, but Arizona has more. Not only is Connor out for the year, but they've got some offensive line guys banged up. Check out the injury report for Arizona. It's a little bit more you're losing there, and it's a short week too, of course. First game in Europe, Minnesota, Pittsburgh. And I like Minnesota in this one. I don't have a lot of trends to show you. I just think Minnesota's better. I know they're with their backup now, even though Wentz could end up taking the job, but I don't think he took the job last week. That was the Bengals. It wasn't like he threw the ball over the place, 350 yards. He had an okay game. It was fine. He did what he needed to do. And McCarthy could have quarterbacked that team to win last week. So that if he wants to win this job, he's going to have to play well this week. It's his second week, so you got to give him a week. So if Carson Wentz wants to keep the job, this is the perfect week to do it. Pittsburgh's got some injury concerns. You need to keep an eye on that. And I just think they're a better team. So I'll give the 2. This is a game I'm staying away from. The guys at the restaurant talked a lot about this game, but I just can't. I'm not taking the Giants. That's why I'm staying away from this one. Jackson Dart, first start, so they get the backup bump. We were 3-0 last week with the backup bump. 2-1 straight up, 3-0 against the spread. And the two that we liked the most, as you remember, Washington and Minnesota both won and covered big. But again, the backup bump doesn't always work. But this one, I think this could work for the Giants in that they're going to get their fans behind them. And you're not going to see a lot of Charger fans in the stands. They don't travel. They don't even show up at their own home games. So they're not going to travel to New York for the Giants. So it's not going to be like that like it would be with the Chiefs or anything like that. So they're going to be behind the Giants, and because of Dart, they want this kid to succeed. So they're going to really be in it. Also throw in the fact that the Chargers are going to be taking a East Coast trip at 1:00. They played 3 division games, so there's going to be the letdown of playing a winless team. But in saying that, again, Harbaugh is 7-2 against the spread as a road favorite with the Chargers. 1-0 in that spot this year. And it's look, Chargers, we all know, are the better team. It's not even a question. But this is a tricky situation here for the Chargers, and that's the reason why I'm just going to stay away from it, because I ain't taking the Giants. Okay. What's next? Oh. Now this one, I think we all know. All this game is about is at what point, it could be like a kickoff. At what point are the Buffalo Bills they're just going to relax and we're going to get out of here without injuries? Because they could get a lead at halftime or by mid-third quarter of 27-3, and then they rest everybody. And then New Orleans comes in there because it's such a big spread, and somehow they outscored Buffalo like 10-0 the rest of the way and they cover. That can happen. Otherwise, this is actually a low number to me. 15. That's the reason I jumped all over Seattle last week, because I thought it was a low number at 7. I thought that should have been like 10 or something. So I thought this should have been 20. And I know it's crazy to think that, but I mean, come on. I mean, the Saints don't we know what we have here? And this is the Bills we're talking about. So yeah, this is just letdown. That's all of this is. And if you want to bet against the letdown, then do it. I have no problem giving 15, but I ain't taking the Saints. This was the other game that I came really close to taking as my top pick of the week in the Wise Guy contest. It's going to be one of those situations where if Detroit covers and Seattle doesn't, I'm going to bang my head against the wall, because that's how close I was to taking Detroit. And the line on the Wise Guy contest was just 7.5. So another situation where I would have been getting a nice 2.5 extra points as well. I was only given 7.5. So that's why I was really liking Detroit. And remember, they were 8 when I loved them on Monday when we talked. So I don't think it's a surprise it got to where it should be. But even though it's at 10, that doesn't matter to me, because didn't we just see what Cleveland did on the road a couple of weeks ago against a really good team? I don't think that's going to change here. I think maybe it changes a little because Cleveland psychologically feels good about themselves, but they got their upset. Everything went well for them. That doesn't happen 2 weeks in a row. Now it's on the road against a Lions team that I don't see too much of a letdown. I don't. I know it's a short week. I know they're also coming off a major win. But I just think this Detroit team, because of the assistant coaches trying to build something on their own, I don't see in week 4 that they're all of a sudden just, all right, it's just, we're going to off week. I just think Detroit's still going to roll. I really do. I don't see a letdown here. I'm not saying that they're fired up to play Cleveland, but I don't think it's a letdown enough where Cleveland's going to have the offense to hang with Detroit, because Detroit's offense being in Detroit especially. Look, if Cleveland was in Green Bay last week, we don't have that result. Green Bay wins easy. It's over. Just like Green Bay's been beating everybody at home. But that's why, remember, we talked about the game last week, why I said I didn't want to touch that game because of what we saw. I've seen Cleveland do this to teams in Cleveland the last several years. But now Cleveland's got their upset. So next week, I'm not worried about it. And check this out too. Kevin Stefanski is 2-12 against the spread as a dog off a straight up ATS win when he takes on a 500 or better opponent. What that means is that after they get their nice little win, their nice little upset victory, they come back down to earth. And that's what we're seeing here. Also, Cleveland 0-6 against the spread on the road versus an opponent off back-to-back straight-up wins. And Detroit is 11-1 against the spread after they score 35 or more, 1-0 in that spot this year. So I'm taking the Lions, and I'm giving the 10. Here's a good one. I think I mentioned this when I started the show. You can check out the link. You can check out the show, the interview I did. It's a 15-minute interview with James Yarcho from the Locked On Bucks podcast. He updated me on everything regarding the injuries for the Bucks. You can also check out his show at 7 o'clock-ish live on Friday when he gives you the final update with injuries, no more practice. So I think that's important. You want to check that out. And look, he agreed, and I think it's just obvious, is if you're going to go with the Bucks, you need Tristan Wirfs to play. It's that simple. If he doesn't play, your pick should be the Eagles. If he does play, then to make a decision. You still take the Eagles, but now you got a shot. Now I'm going to take the Bucks, same if Wirfs plays, because the Bucks have kind of owned the Eagles, believe it or not. They're 6-1 straight up the last 7 versus Philly since 2015. And this includes Hurts. I think he's played the Eagles, the Bucks like 3 or 4 times. So, and last year they played week 4 in Tampa, and the Eagles, I believe, were a 1-point favorite, and Tampa Bay won 33-16. So Tampa Bay's kind of got the Eagles number. It looked like the Eagles had kind of reached their little point, because remember, going into last week, the reason why we liked the Rams, especially with that big money line number, which was 177 on one of my sports books, which was awesome, or at least I thought it was going to be awesome. And that had to do because Philadelphia's offense had done nothing the first couple of weeks with the new OC. So finally, they're down big, the new OC, whatever the case may be. Maybe they let it fly, and all of a sudden they're able to move the ball down the field. This is going to be the game that's going to tell us a lot on whether or not it was just one of those halves that everything went right and they were showing their Super Bowl championship pedigree, or there's still some work to do in this offense. It's just not, it's not where we want it to be. So I think the Eagles have to still prove that to me over another game. And I'm willing to take Tampa. Again, this is if Wirfs plays, because Godwin's coming back, even though he's not going to be out there the entire game. He's not going to be in full Godwin mold. It's big because Evans is out. So now you still have Godwin. You still have Ibuka. Shepard gives you a nice little veteran presence there as well. And more importantly, you've got White and Irving in the backfield, but you have to have Tristan Wirfs on the offensive line against that Philly defense. Carolina was one of our 2 successful upset picks last week. Remember, we had Carolina and Detroit last week. Now, I still like Carolina this week just because of the fact that, especially money lines, are a lot easier to just throw a few bucks, try to parlay things, something like that. So I'll do that. But yeah, I'm not going to take him as a true play this week, because it is hard to do that 2 weeks in a row, especially, it's in New England. It's their 3rd road game in 4. New England, it's their 3rd home game in 4. But there's a couple of trends that do go the way of Carolina here. They've covered 8 straight on the road off of a double-digit ATS win versus a non-division team that they're playing. The Patriots are 1-8-1 versus the NFC the last 2 years. Okay, so there are a couple of trends that go the way of Carolina here. Carolina's schedule does open up, though. Dolphins, Dallas, and Jets after this. So even if they lose this game, they can kind of get back into the wild card race, which I thought that they'd be in when the season started. So I still have hope. And blowing out Atlanta, I think that puts them right back in it. And the thing, though, Ted McMillan, their top wide receiver, keep an eye on him, because that's another reason why I was afraid of this game, because McMillan's not looking good to play. And they can't afford to have those types of weapons out, especially since Coker's still on the injured reserve. So that'd be a couple of starting receivers down, and that would not be good news. All right. So anyway, but the point here is I think this is still too big of a line. I don't think the Patriots should be given 5.5 points to Carolina. I just don't. And I'm getting almost 2-1 on the money line if you look at it that way too. All right. Washington, Atlanta. Now, this is one that's going to really be tough because we don't know yet about Daniels, and even McLaurin looks like – matter of fact, it looks like McLaurin's not going to play. So that's not good. But you do have Dan Quinn returning to Atlanta. They beat Atlanta late last year. We remember that. So maybe there's revenge, right? Not so fast. Check this out. Head coach Raheem Morris, and I don't think Raheem Morris is going to be the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons in 2026. Okay. So, because I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, and then they're going to have to find someone else. Raheem Morris is 2-14 against the spread as a home dog. 2-14 against the spread as a home dog, as a coach. And he's 0-10 against the spread as a home dog with revenge. That's the spot he's in. The Falcons are also a bad spread team. I said that in the beginning of the year. I can't take the Falcons and I can't take the Bears. They're two of the worst spread teams the last several years. Atlanta 28, 42-1 since 2021, 1-2 this year. And also, Washington's covered 7 straight on the road when they take on a non-division opponent off a straight-up ATS loss. So, but we got to see about Daniels. And I don't know. I'm kind of wondering. I'm thinking Daniels has got a shot. So even though if McLaurin doesn't play, you get Daniels back. That's bigger, no doubt. So I'm still siding with Washington here. This was actually another game I really liked, and I'm going to take Houston. It's going to be one of my top 4 plays. And I know things are not going well with them, but they've lost 3 close games to start the season, and that's not good. But I kind of feel that this might be the game where Callahan gets fired because he's relinquished play calling duties. And the whole idea of hiring this guy in the first place is because of that. He's supposed to be an offensive guy. And I mean, he's not supposed to be some CEO. That's not why they hired him. That's almost like the first step of admitting that you're not doing it right. I think if Houston blows out Tennessee, he'll be fired. And I think that could happen. I think Houston is just, they're at home. I think they've got a lot of this bent up frustration out there that they're going to take it out on Tennessee. And they're 4-1 straight up ATS against Tennessee the last 5. But they did get upset last year at home to Tennessee. So that will get them wary. That will get them noticing Tennessee here. But more importantly, check out these trends that are bad for Tennessee. 2-11 straight up and against the spread in the division since 2023. 0-1 this week. They got blown out by Colts last week. 0-11 against the spread as AFC dogs of more than 3 when they take on a losing team. 0-11. And 0-9 against the spread on the road versus the division opponent of a straight up ATS loss. That's 2-11, 0-11, and 0-9. And then I just think Houston, like I said, is ready to just release all their frustration on Tennessee in this one. This is one of the best games of the week, no question. I think you've got Tampa Bay, Philly, and Colts, Rams. I know you've got Baltimore and Kansas City, but I've seen that, done that. I care more about these other two matchups, especially this one. This might be the best one of the weekend, actually, because we haven't seen this. It's AFC, it's NFC, almost a battle of undefeateds. So this is going to be a really good one. I'm not going to take this game because of that 3.5, as much as I believe the Rams will win. When you are hot right now, like the Colts are, and everything is going your way, I think that's going to keep their heads are exploding with confidence. And I think that that'll keep them in the game. I think it'll be a close game. It'll be a 4-quarter game, and every point matters. Now, what I am worried about as well is that the Rams are going to be hosting San Francisco this week on Thursday Night Football. So that is a big game coming up for the Rams in a short week. So that's why I'm saying that's a bigger game. That's why I'm a little bit, and last week was a bigger game. So that's why I'm a little bit concerned with this sandwich game, even though it's coming off a loss. But keep in mind, the Colts beat 2 bad teams, 2 winless teams, and the only win they had was against a 1-win team, which really should be a 2-win team, because the fact is they got lucky. They got a penalty that didn't matter, that had nothing to do with the outcome of the kick that missed, and they just were given a win when they should have lost. So, but that's where their confidence is. That's what I'm saying. It's just, hey, we can do no wrong. And that's the reason why I'd be a little bit wary about this. But the Rams have won both games as a home favorite this year, straight up ATS, and the Colts have dropped 7 straight covers after they've scored 35 or more. So, look, if I was taking a game, I'd definitely take the Rams. And this is another game that I'm going to try to maybe parlay with the minus 192 on the money line. And here's the other part of that San Francisco Rams Thursday night matchup. This is a 3-point spread. You ready for another big one? The Jags are 1-17 against the spread in their last 18 when they take on NFC West teams. And to tell you the truth, that might be all time, because I don't know how many times they've played NFC West teams over the years, but 1-17 against the spread versus the NFC West. Well, I'm not taking them this week, that's for sure. And they got a Monday night home game coming up with the Chiefs. But San Francisco's got a short week, big game coming up. They're 3-0. So I'm not touching this game, because to tell you the truth, look, I don't know if Purdy doesn't play, I would take Jacksonville, but I do wonder whether or not, I don't know. I guess the line, I don't know how much more the line would be affected, because they've been winning the last couple of games without Purdy. They've got wide receiver injury issues you got to keep an eye on with Jennings and with Pearsall. I mean, this team has had just too many injuries. I mean, you got Tampa Bay and San Francisco just dealing with incredible amount of injuries, and yet they're 6-0. All right, what's next? But I would take Jacksonville, actually, if I was taking the game. I would take the 3.5. All right, here's the big game of the week that gets the 4 o'clock billing. And, yeah, like we haven't seen this matchup before. And one of these teams is going to be 1-3. How about that? I'll take Baltimore in this one. I don't care about Kansas City being a home dog. That's because they've dropped 3 as a home dog straight up and against the spread since 2020. And they're 0-1 in that spot this year. So Kansas City, home dog, doesn't mean anything. Look, I just still think Baltimore is a better team, because if Baltimore doesn't, if Henry doesn't fumble the ball twice late in games, they're probably undefeated. Where Kansas City is just losing games. Now, they do have some injuries, but they're getting Worthy back. So that's big. So keep an eye on how much that influences the Chiefs in this matchup. I still got to go with Baltimore in this one until the Chiefs, because Baltimore, at least again, as long as they're still playing like they're a 2-1, 3-0 team, the Chiefs are still not playing like they are. So until the Chiefs start showing us that they're back to being the Chiefs, even last year's Chiefs, then okay. But until then, I would take Baltimore. I'm not going to take the game. I just, I'm probably not going to take the game, though. Maybe I'll take Baltimore. And again, take the minus 148 if you're going to take Baltimore. This is a game nobody will be watching because it's also at 4:00. And the Bears were a favorite on Monday, which I thought was funny at the time. And now they're a 1-point dog because the Bears have not been a road favorite since 2021. All right. So, hey, if somehow the Bears become a favorite, just keep that in mind. The Bears are 1-10 against the spread off a double-digit ATS win and 14-26 against the spread as a road dog in the last 40. And they're 0-1 in that spot this year. So just because Caleb Williams had a great game against Dallas, that doesn't mean anything. We just saw what Russell Wilson did against them and what he did the week after. Now, Las Vegas is not the Chiefs. We all get that. But that's the point, is that Caleb Williams is not all of a sudden going to start becoming a superstar now. And the Raiders, remember, we liked the Raiders week 1 because it was a good spot. Patriots hadn't been favored before with Drake May. You know, the offseason to get ready. Well, the offseason to get ready, but you get my point. You know, you had Pete Carroll, trusted coach, in that spot for the dog, in that role. Well, I kind of feel the same way here. I think this is a good spot for the Raiders. I did not like them the last 2 weeks, but I like them here. So hopefully I'll get on a Raiders roll this year where I'll be 4-0 picking their games. But yeah, I'm going to take the Raiders. I just think they're on level. I do. I just think there's no big major talent gap between the Bears and the Raiders, and in my opinion. And especially I got Pete Carroll with all of his years of experience as a head coach. And I think that matters in this spot. So I'm taking the Raiders in this one. But, I mean, am I going to put my hard-earned cash on the Raiders this week? No, I'm not. They are 10-4 against the spread. Their last 14 is a home favorite since 2022. Now we get to the primetime games before we wrap everything up. And remember, on Monday, we thought it was kind of funny that we only had to give 5 in this spot. So now it's 7. I still think it's good enough. But the thing you do have to keep in mind, and this is the thing that scared me away from taking the Packers, is they are 1-9 against the spread as a home favorite of more than 3 in the last 10. And they're 0-1 in that spot this year after losing to the Cleveland Browns last week. And remember, that's what we talked partly about last week, which is why I didn't want to take Green Bay. Now, the other thing is you have to think of the psychological. See, I think a lot of people might get into, Micah Parsons is going back to Dallas. He's going to have 10 sacks in a game. And he was traded. He wanted to get paid in Dallas. It wasn't like he asked to be traded. And that was the main thing that he was looking to do. But I think I'm willing to look at it from the Cowboys' point of view of, hey, there's a lot of players on that team that, want to, they know the situation. They know it's Micah Parsons coming back. They're a better team, and he's going to want to show them up, and that'll get the Cowboys motivated. Will that matter, though? Probably not. The Cowboys were 2-5 against the spread last year as a home dog. So that's the role, of course, they're in here. Yeah, it's I just think also, look, no CeeDee Lamb. If they had CeeDee Lamb, I think they'd have a shot. But no CeeDee Lamb, I just don't see it. With the Packers coming off a loss, so it's got to be the Packers. That's got to be the play. And even though there's no CeeDee Lamb, I still think the over is probably the play because I think the Packers should be able to score 40. I mean, the Bears, didn't they almost score 40? And who did the Cowboys play that the week before? The Giants. And Russell Wilson had a field day. So struggling Caleb Williams and Russell Wilson have had field days against him. And what do you think Jordan Love's going to do? So I'm not a total guy, but I would take the over here. And then the final game. I predicted it last week that we'd see the 0-3 Jets and the 0-3 Dolphins on Monday Night Football. And that's exactly what we have. Now the question is which way to go. We don't know about Fields yet. Now, I didn't see the practice report today. So if Fields practiced, you would think that he'll play. I think he's going to play anyway. And I'd say this, when you have a concussion and if you don't play a second straight week, that's a problem. That becomes a problem. So keep an eye on that. Now, whether they have Fields or not, though, you can tell my voice is going because I've been on the air for almost 2 hours talking non-stop. I said this on Monday. This is the thing of why I would probably not take the game, because the Dolphins have beaten the Jets 9 straight times at home. All right. But I'm not going to take the game because this is the side you should take. You should take the side when you have two struggling teams. You take the side of the struggling team where they're beginning their rebuilding process, like the Jets are. This is their new coach. They believe in him. They fought their asses off last week. Even though they had another injury with Quincy Williams, they're going to miss him now for a month. Whatever. That's life as a Jet fan. And so they're going to be ready to go. Let's go. We're going to win this week. But you don't think you don't know what you're getting with the Dolphins because they're a blowout loss away from a bad team hiring a new coach. So because of that, that's why I think in these situations, not just Monday night, but just in the future, when you have situations like this, I would always take the bad team that has the new coach and the hope outlook compared to the coach who's on his way out. All right. Oh, and the Dolphins are 2-6 against the spread. Their last 8 is a home favorite. But I do think, as I said before, the matchups are more important. And the Miami Dolphins have owned the Jets 9 straight years in Miami. And as we close out, before I lose my voice completely, my picks. My final picks for the NFL are Seattle, Tampa Bay, Detroit, and Houston. Okay. And if you weren't with us before, college football, Notre Dame, Rutgers, Indiana, Arizona State, Cincinnati is the only dog. Oh, Rutgers is a dog too. Iowa State and BYU. Those are the games I like the most. So I don't have an upset in the NFL this week. Let me see. Is there an upset I like in the NFL this week? Dallas is 3-1. There's not a lot of upsets. That's why. There's a lot of low numbers. I love Houston, so of course I'm not taking Tennessee. Carolina, you're getting 185. I'm not taking Cleveland because I love Detroit. Obviously, I'm not taking the Saints. I'm not touching the Giants. That's the reason why I don't have an upset. So if I was taking an upset pick, I guess it would be between Carolina and Dallas. Those are the two, but I just can't imagine Green Bay losing 2 straight after the start they got off to. So I'd probably take Carolina because they're taking the Patriots, and the Patriots are not a good team. All right. So we're wrapping up out of here. I'm getting out of here because I'm losing my voice. I'm losing my meaning of pronunciation. But I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I'll see you with Mark Lawrence at 1:00 Eastern. That's the Playbook ATS podcast. Mark, Andy, Jim, and me. I think we're all going to be there. I'm pretty sure. And then on Friday, it will be me, Mark, and Jim at 2:30 to give our final analysis and picks in the NFL and college football. Also, if you're a horse racing fan, we're going to have our horse racing coverage returns tomorrow. No more YouTube membership behind closed doors. John Hardoon will be back. We worked out a financial arrangement with John so he can do all of his picks for free for you guys here on YouTube. So we did that just for you. And we will let you know more about that tomorrow because we'll be airing that show at 7:00 Eastern like we normally did, even for the membership shows. So that'll be tomorrow. And I think that's it. Do we have anything else? I think that's it. And then, so between tomorrow and Friday, the other shows you want to keep an eye on are the special videos that Jim does with Andy and with Victor Cruz. I'm losing it. So he already recorded that with Andy. So I'm going to post that tomorrow. That'll be on in the morning. That's the show where they go over the alternate lines and teasers. So that's with Andy Isco and Jim. That'll be available tomorrow on demand. Then we'll have the playbook show at 1 o'clock Eastern live. And then the horse racing coverage will be live at 7 o'clock. Then Friday, like I said, it's the last show, 2:30 football. And then also look out for our NASCAR coverage on Saturday. For any of you who are interested in NASCAR, we'll be on, I think, around 3 o'clock. I'll record that show. And I'll also have Kevin Rogers. We'll have his picks for NASCAR. We usually post that on Saturday morning. And that's going to do it. So, yes, we will not be doing 2-hour shows. I don't even know why I did this so long, because this is a little bit too long. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I gave you enough information to chew on, enough trends and information out there. And then we'll keep throwing more trends and updates of the next couple of days with different shows and different handicappers. So again, thanks for tuning in here, and make sure to subscribe. If you have yet to subscribe, because that's the best way to support the show and the channel. And that's really important, because then we could do things again, like, we can pay people like John and to give you guys free content. So that happens when we get more subscribers like you. So please subscribe to the channel so we can keep giving you guys free content. And we'll see you again tomorrow on the Playbook ATS podcast live at 1 o'clock right here on Proline TV.